Today I want to give you the third part in the series on blockages to healing. This factor that I want to talk to you about today is not necessarily as widespread as maybe control, but it is something that for those that struggle with it, it is going to cut the legs out from underneath your recovery. It will be very difficult, almost impossible to heal. In fact, I will tell you, I don't think that you can really heal your marriage if you have this approach in recovery. Now, if you've taken this approach, I'm sorry, I don't want to offend you. I never want to offend you or upset you or anger you unless it's maybe something that you need to hear and perhaps you're angry at yourself, which has happened a lot. I'm not trying to be self-righteous, but I do want to tell you that if you've taken this approach, it's going to come back to hurt you both, and it doesn't promote recovery very well at all. So inevitably, I'll be talking to a betrayed spouse or even an unfaithful, and they will talk about how either they have said this or their betrayed spouse has said this to them. And it's this approach that basically says, from a betrayed spouse, you know what, this is your issue, you need to go fix it, and you need to go get worked out and work things out, and then we'll save the marriage. And I want to tell you, it doesn't work that way. This cannot be well, this is your issue, so you go take care of business. I'm sorry, that approach will completely jeopardize the entirety of your recovery because it promotes a divisiveness. It promotes division. It doesn't promote oneness. It doesn't promote a togetherness in recovery. And if you're going to make it through recovery from addiction or infidelity of any kind, you cannot have a divided recovery. It doesn't work that way. You're going to have to be able to be one with the recovery process. You're going to have to be able to get in the same boat, though you may be using a different oar of recovery methods. You cannot and will not succeed if you take the approach that says, well, this is your issue, or this is his issue, or this is her issue. It doesn't bring about a holistic, redemptive approach in your recovery. Now, I can already hear some feedback saying, so Samuel's saying that, you know, the reason my spouse cheated was because I didn't do A, B, and C. Absolutely not. That is not what I am saying. But what I am saying is if you think that you as a betrayed spouse can sit back and just let them go get healthy when you are dealing with a marriage or a partnership, it's not going to be able to be successful because that unfaithful spouse needs you involved in their recovery. They need you to be able to talk with them, confront them lovingly, support them, encourage them, process with them. They need to be able to ask you, how am I doing with this? Or what do you see in me? What do you see that's bad? What do you see that's good? How am I doing? How do you feel about X, Y, and Z? You can't just send them off into recovery land and think that they are going to be able to do everything on their own. It doesn't work that way. Here's why it doesn't work that way. Because you as a betrayed are also traumatized. You've also been through hell. You need your own recovery, but you also have to be able to have a recovery that is symbiotic with your unfaithful spouse. You are married. You're going to have to do some recovery work together in order to foster reconnection and foster healthy communication, which communication is one of the bedrocks to be able to gain momentum, because if you can't talk, how do you build momentum? If you can't process, how do you determine if your spouse is kind of getting safer or getting unsafer? You have to be able to have this be a very united approach, even though he or she is, as an unfaithful, is going to have to do a lot of recovery work on their own. And you as a betrayed, I'm telling you, you're going to have to be able to do some recovery work on your own too, because you can't process everything with your spouse, but you can't heal from everything on your own. You see, having this unequal amount of privacy is probably what helped foster the affair or the addiction in the first place. So continuing to, reinforce this, go off on your own in this private world and get healthy when they were off in their own in this private world having an affair or struggling with their addiction in the first place, it's not going to be able. You can't solve a problem. Rick always says this, and it's an Albert Einstein quote. You can't solve a problem with the same consciousness that created the problem in the first place. Part of the reason why you're probably in this mess is because your unfaithful spouse had such a private, hidden world. And so if their recovery is going to be private and hidden, where will the accountability come from? How will you be able to see what they're doing and how they're growing? How will you be able to see empathy, remorse, and humility? How will you be able to connect if you're in your world and he or she is in their world? It doesn't foster any kind of unity, forgiveness, and healing. It has to be a process where you're doing work together. To take the approach that says, well, this is your struggle, so you go do your work and I'll go do my work and then we'll come together and everything will be great. That is a fantasy. Now there is the exception. Sometimes things are so toxic, or sometimes a spouse refuses to stop acting out or stop the affair, and that's when you probably have to separate. That's where you probably have to create some separation there to be able to protect yourself as a betrayed and to kind of hand your unfaithful spouse over to themselves. And if you're an unfaithful and you're not safe, why would you expect your betrayed spouse to continue to engage with you when you continue to act out and communicate to them that you don't want to save the marriage, or you don't even want to take a break from the affair partner, and that you don't even want to create a safe space where you can do some recovery work? They're always going to be encouraged by any therapist who knows what they're doing to create space, because you are not creating safety for them. So there is a point where you say, okay, look, I've tried. My unfaithful spouse is not interested in oneness. They're not interested in doing what it takes to come together, so I do need to retreat and work on me. You go fix you, and this is your issue, unfortunately, is the mindset that perpetuates the cycle that created the infidelity or the addiction in the first place. It just doesn't work.